Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with fried peach and pancetta pizza. That's right, we're doing fried pizza, which I was going to call fritza, but then I was afraid people would think that meant fruit pizza, and there would have been massive confusion, so we're not going to do that. And believe it or not, this was inspired by a childhood dessert, because my family used to take leftover pizza dough scraps, and they'd fry it and toss it in sugar to make like a quick donut-like treat. But here we're going to take that same idea and turn it into a savory application. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by cooking some pancetta. So in a cold skillet, I have a big handful of some thickly sliced pancetta, and I am going to add a little drizzle of olive oil to get things started. And we'll go ahead and put that on medium heat and cook it until we have something very nicely caramelized. And all pancetta is a cured pork. They call it Italian bacon, but it isn't smoked, so the flavor is not really bacon-like, but just absolutely delicious nonetheless. And like I said, we're going to cook that until it's fairly well caramelized. So here we're starting to get there. So I let this go a couple more minutes until I had something that resembled this. And at that point, all I want you to do is turn off the heat and let that cool right in the pan. Because when we use this to top our pizzas, we do want a little bit of that oil coming along for the ride, okay? So we'll turn off the heat, we'll leave that right there, and we'll move on to the pizza dough. So yes, you're going to need some prepared pizza dough, and I'm going to cut that in quarters because I'm going to make little small pizzas. And we'll take one of those pieces and we'll dust it with flour. And as with anything like this, we just want to use enough flour so we can work with it. Don't put too much flour. All right, don't be afraid of a little stickiness. And then all we want to do is roll this out and or stretch it with our hands to get it about 1/8 of an inch thick. So I kind of use a combination of pulling and stretching and rolling. And please don't be concerned about shape. Really, the beauty of this thing is any shape's going to be perfect, except for a perfect circle. Perfect will look stupid. I mean, that imperfect shape is one of the things that makes us look awesome. Kind of like people. But anyway, like I said, we're going to roll that out to about 1/8 of an inch thick. And when it gets to this point, I kind of like to finish off by just stretching it with my fingertips. There should be just enough stickiness to kind of make it adhere and sort of keep it stretched out like that. So that looks good. And at that point, just let it sit there and rest for about 5 minutes before we go ahead and fry this in olive oil. So I'm going to use a heavy cast iron skillet set on medium-high heat. And we're just going to shallow fry this. There's only about a 1/2 inch of olive oil in there. And we'll carefully place that dough in. Pro tip, don't burn yourself. Always place it in a way that if it splashes away from you. And we're going to fry that for about 2 minutes per side, or until it's nicely browned and cooked through. And you're going to see both sides are going to have a very distinctive look. So I'm going to flip this over. And the side that went down first is going to be quite browned around the outside, but the center is going to be kind of light. But don't worry, that's where our toppings are going to go. So that will be the top. And then this other side, as you'll see, is going to pretty much brown across the whole surface. So that looks good. And like I said, it's going to take about 2 minutes per side, give or take. But you'll know because it'll look like this. And then what we'll do is we'll drain that very well on paper towels. And at that point, your fried pizza dough is ready for toppings. And one cool thing about this is you can do this step ahead, even the day before if you want. And we'll talk about that on the blog. But I'm not doing this ahead. I want to eat right now. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer those onto a foil-lined baking sheet. Again, we want to make sure we have that lighter side up, the concave side up, the convex side down, and we will begin to build our pizza. So I'm going to start by spreading these with some beautiful ricotta cheese. Don't put too much, but make sure you got enough. Okay, I'm recommending the perfect amount here. And then once these have been cheesed, I'm going to do a little bit of fresh herb. In this case, I'm using fresh thyme leaves. Basil is also fantastic. So if you want something a little bit on the sweeter side, go basil. And if you'd rather have a little more on the savory, herbaceous side, go with the thyme. And not too much, just a hint. And then we'll go ahead and grab our pancetta, which should be now cool enough to handle. And we'll go ahead and scatter that over the top. And again, you don't want too much, but you do want some pancetta in every bite. So make sure you distribute that thoughtfully. And please note I'm using nice thick slices of pancetta because you really want that nice porky bite here, something to sink your teeth into. And by the way, there's nothing porkier than pancetta. But anyway, that looks pretty good right there. And then when you're cooking, you always want to listen to yourself. Because as I was looking at these, I said to myself, you should put a little black pepper on there. So I did. And at that point, it was time for the other main ingredient. Beautiful, fresh, ripe, incredibly sweet peaches. We're going to take a few slices and nuzzle them in. Actually, I said nuzzle. I actually meant nestle. But now that I think about it, nuzzle works. And I'm kind of trying to position these where they're covering up the minimum amount of pancetta. So I'm kind of going in between the chunks, but that's not a big deal. It's going to taste incredible regardless. So I'm going to go with 5 nice slices. That's what looks like it works here. But anyway, that's up to you. You are the Mother Teresa of your fried pizza. And then once that stone fruit has been placed down, I'm going to top it with a fairly generous grating of Parmigiano Reggiano. And by generous, I mean about 10 to 12 cents worth. And then last but not least, before these go in the oven, I'm going to give them a little drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. This time we're using the good stuff. And then we'll go ahead and pop those in a very hot oven, 475, for about 12 to 15 minutes, or until it looks like this. It should be beautifully browned. Right, you may see a little bit of caramelization happening on the cheese, and those peaches will be perfectly tender. And I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm patting my own butt, but those really do look amazing. I mean, come on, how do you not want to eat that? Although, and you knew this was coming, you really should let those cool for about 5 or 10 minutes. I mean, if you eat this too hot, you just don't get the full effect. So let it cool a little bit, and at that point, go ahead and pop it on a plate. If you have the time, and you have the time, you go ahead and accessorize with a couple extra sprigs, and that fried peach and pancetta pizza is done. And I was going to say something else, but I forgot what that was, because I want to eat this. So let me go ahead and cut this in half, and dig in to what ended up being one of the most delicious things I've eaten all month. That subtly sweet, rich ricotta, that beautifully caramelized porky pancetta, which always has that little hint of cured funkiness to it. And of course those sweet peaches and Parmesan and thyme and black pepper and olive oil. Just a magnificent array of flavors. And I want to be clear, there's absolutely nothing wrong with regular pizza, just like there's nothing wrong with boiled potatoes. But sometimes you want French fries. You know what I'm saying? So I really do hope you give this a try. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.